I wanna try and take in all the highs, embrace them for more than a moment's time. I want you, please don't move when I push you away. I know I contradict myself some days, but will you ride the lows with me?
Welcome to Mental Health News Radio. I am your host, Kristen Sunanta Walker. Our goal is to help discussions about mental health be a regular part of your daily life, no different than discussions about physical health. Mental illness can be a topic of discussion under the umbrella of mental health, along with so many other topics. This show is the original program on mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com. Our network of shows are played in over 180 countries and cover more topics under that umbrella than you can possibly imagine. We were talking about mental health long before it became cool and popular to talk about, and thank goodness it has become so popular. We have incredible guests, advocates, patients, experts, people. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy our intro music, a song named Lows, written by Aubrey Toon. You can find her music at www.aubreytoone.com.
That night when I started praying, I cried, will you ride the lows with me? Will you ride the lows with me? When I'm down, my vision gets blurry.
Hi, everyone. Kristen Walker here. I am with Christine Louis de Cannonville, and we are on our series where we're talking about narcissism, and in conjunction with her newest book, The Ghost in the Machine. Christine, thank you so much for coming on to do another show.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
And today this is a topic, I think, did I come to you with this one?
Not sure.
Yeah, it came across one way or another, but we're talking about narcissistic mothers and their daughters. And I did not sleep last night. In probably just, I could not turn my brain off thinking about this show. So I just throw that out there.
Okay. So it's a big subject, and I suppose from my angle, I would say that I would consider this to be one of the worst that I've had to deal with in the therapy room, in some ways. And the reason I say that I find it the worst is because it's kind of out there that you're supposed to love your mother and your mother's supposed to love you, and you only get one mother in life, etc., etc., etc. But it's really, really sad working with daughters and sons, to be honest, when they're dealing with their mother, because you're taking them right back to childhood from the very beginning of life. It's not like somebody that they've met later in life who's not a blood line to them. And I just think it's mothers is probably one of the hardest in the sense of it's the saddest. If it's a spouse or somebody you work with, you can get away from them. You can run away from them. As a child, you can't run away. You're trapped. You don't even know why, what the problem is. A child thinks that they're the problem. So in that regard, it's very, very damaging.
And narcissism is on a spectrum, as we've said many times. But this one just can spread through. Of just looking at our family tree, this goes back so far in our family, with fissures and breakups and families and all around that narcissistic mother wound. Plenty of narcissistic father wounds as well, but that mother wound is the one that seemed to rock all of these families to the core in our
Yes.
family tree. And very few healed enough to come back together, very few. And I say that saying that is not always the best outcome. It's not even an available outcome for so many people. So I don't say very few um, got to the healing point because they're better. I don't mean that at all.
Yes,
There's some
yes,
that the healing was to break apart. I just want to make that clear because there's
yes.
so much shame. This is something I understand, that mother wound. Ugh, there's so much shame from that that I always think about when I'm explaining something, who's listening, and if it's about this and how easily we can get tripped up by shame. Those of us that have had this kind of a thing in our family. So I always kind of over explain just to make sure I'm not trying to trigger anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, children aren't able to take self-worth from themselves. They need it to be mirrored to them. They need to be told, oh, aren't you gorgeous? Aren't you beautiful? Oh, I love your new red shoes. Show me. Oh, they're wonderful. And you see the child come up. But if the child is not getting that kind of affirmation, their self-worth is actually diminished. And that's the sad part about it.
How have you, when you've worked with clients and you said it's, it's the saddest one that you see, how, if you looked at a timeline of healing for someone, is it the one that takes the longest?
I wouldn't say it necessarily takes longer. I
Okay.
just think it's very, very sad when they have to challenge that they didn't feel particularly loved, but now they're actually facing that actually maybe they weren't loved, maybe they were used. Um, and that can go into all sorts of areas and have different effects. So, for example, I had a young girl come into me one day, and she was about 17. She was gorgeous. Oh, she was immaculately turned out. She looked incredible. Um, she was smart. She was just about to do her final exams at school, um, with the hopes of going to college. And she was coming in with panic attacks. So, we sat down and we started looking what was going on for her, and that her exams were coming up very, very shortly. So I started to explore with her how was her schoolwork, and it turned out that she gets A's in everything. And I asked her how confident was she feeling and all the rest of it. She looked immaculate, so she looked very much in order and in control to a large extent. Um, but in fact, we started to discover that actually she was worried. She was worried about getting her points. In Ireland, you have to get a certain amount of points to get into college. And so we started to discuss that. And she said that her mother wanted her to study medicine. And in Ireland, you have to have really high points for that. So we started talking about that and how did she feel. And she said that actually she didn't really want to go into medicine. I said, what would you like to do then? So she said, I love art and I'm actually very good at it. I have won awards for it. But my mother said, oh, that's a lovely hobby, but it's not a career. So I said, okay. So we explored that a little bit for her. And what really came to light really was that this was one of the cases where this daughter was seen as an extension of her mother by her mother.
Mm.
There are different things you can see in it when you're working with people, but this was what she was experiencing. And the mother was not seeing her as an individual at all. So the mother had a dream of always wanting to have been a surgeon herself. But she didn't have the opportunity. Her family didn't have money when she was young to send her to college. So she never achieved her dream. So what she was doing was she was living her life through her daughter. And even the clothes, because that all came out as well about, I said, you look really well. I said, it's not so usual for a 17-year-old to come into me looking so well turned out. They usually throw on their jeans and a little sweatshirt. I said, oh my God, my mother wouldn't let me wear that. Oh, so it turned out her mother chose her clothes for her. And I asked, well, is there what's behind the picking of the kind of clothes that she picks for you? I suppose I was thinking the mother didn't want her to look too sexy, too grown up. No, it wasn't that. She said for years, she said she's always had to dress like she was already a success, that she was ready for every situation. So she didn't wear sneakers or, you know, trainers. She wore little kitten heels and she looked lovely. She really did. But everything was about image and everything was about being prepared and being ready. So unfortunately, the girl, she felt totally smothered by the mother. She felt totally dismissed, not heard. She revealed to me that she was thinking of actually failing her exams deliberately. That way she wouldn't get the points to go into medical school.
Right.
So we had to explore, okay, but that's still about your mother, isn't it? What about you? What do you want around your exam results? And she said, well, I want to get the best. I want to get what I deserve. I said, okay. I said, so if you flunk them, will you get what you deserve? So she said, not really. And then I'll never really know if I'm smart or not, will I? I said, well, you already know you're smart by the results you're getting. But I said, have you tried talking with your mother? And she said, no. She said, immediately she guilt trips me. She'll say, oh, how can you do this to me? This is my dream. You know this is my dream. You'll kill my dream. So she's guilt tripped. So she started to talk about something. And all of a sudden she caught on herself. She said, oh my God, she said, I'm talking, my mother's words are coming out of my mouth. They're not my words. They're her words. I said, well, that's interesting, isn't it? So if your mouth could speak your words, what would your mouth want to say? So then she lashed out. It all came out then. So basically what we did, we had to learn, she had to role play with me, how she would talk to her mum. And I had to put myself in her mother's shoes and try act like I thought she might act. And bit by bit by bit, she got up the courage to be able to go and talk with her mother. Was there a good outcome? It took a while. It took a while, but that didn't really matter. In the immediate thing was she realized that if she flunked, she was actually cheating herself,
Right.
not cheating her mother. And that was a very big eye-opening moment for her because she realized that even when she was trying to do things for herself, it was really, she was doing things either to spite her mom or to please her mom and keep her mom off her. But she wasn't really doing what she wanted or speaking about what she wanted. So in time, what we did was we came up with a plan. And the plan was she'd do the best she could, whatever came of her results. She would know she didn't cheat herself. She'd given herself the best shot. And it happened she did do very well. But also, she said, but then I'll have to go to medical college. So I said, well, if there wasn't this struggle going on between you and your mom, if there wasn't this struggle, Do you like biology? You're studying that. Do you like it? She said, I love it. Oh, I said, would medicine be something that you might be interested in? Have you ever thought about it from your perspective? And she said, well, my first love is art. I said, is there a way to combine the two? No, she said, there isn't. I said, are you sure? Let's look at that. So what we came out of it was that if she got into college, that she would take it. She would see for the first year whether she had a call for it or not. That way, she wouldn't cheat herself there either, but that she would build in a proviso that she would go to college providing she could also do art classes in the same year in her leisure time on, maybe Saturday mornings or whatever with a tutor. And she actually had that conversation. And it caused a lot of tension in the home, naturally. But in the end, she was able to put down her boundaries so well that she was able to handle it. The role play that we had done in the therapy room, she was able to be ready for the questions and answers that came up. So we actually got a good outcome.
Did you see in that situation, were the mother and daughter ever able to have a different and healthier relationship because the daughter broke through and was able to put down boundaries, and the mother, I guess, respected them? Did you see a future there?
Yes, yes. And that was only because the daughter knew what she wanted. Um, we also did some compassionate work around her mother in the therapy room as well about her dream. Now, this is where another therapist might say, well, wait, you're meant to stay with the client. What are you doing talking about her, looking at her mother? But it's all part of the compassion work. If she can kind of understand what's going on for her mother, then she can actually have a better answer for her. And so the mother got her dream in the sense that the daughter was agreeing to go to college, um, see whether she liked the subject or not. And if not, um, she would swap over and do art. But in the meantime, she'd run the two tandem together for the first year. And the mother realized that she was so adamant. But the mother also, she was able to say to the mother, was this manipulation? Well, sometimes it's okay to manipulate. She was able to say to the mother, because of you, Mom, and because of the strengths that you've given me, maybe I can have the two. I know I have the passion and the love for the art. I don't know whether I have it for medicine, but I can find that out in a year. And the mother had never seen her daughter strong like that before. But she did it in a very respectful way. And she didn't shame the mother, and that's important. And that's the way I worked it with that particular girl anyway. But what it did open up for her was when she heard herself speaking her mother's words, she actually said, I don't know who I am. I said, no, you haven't got your identity yet. And she realized my mother is keeping me from developing my own identity. But we were also able to be compassionate and say, well, maybe she doesn't realize that. All she knows is that you're bright and wonderful and she loves you. And the very thing she had a passion for, she thought maybe you might have, but you're telling her, well, I'm not too sure about that, Mom. And she's listening.
And then there's the situations where the mom is not going to listen and you are cut
Oh, yeah.
off. I mean, it goes through that
Yeah.
entire spectrum. And
Yeah. Well, she did speak about that. When I had asked her, have you tried talking to your mum about that? She said, oh, several times. And the outcome for that was her mum did the silent treatment.
right.
It would last for about 3 days until the daughter couldn't tolerate it anymore and would go back and would apologize to mum. And then they'd be back to normal.
I
And
have
that
been
was
in
how,
that I have been in that loop
you know
myself.
that one.
Yeah, I finally just left and went, goodbye, this is done for a couple of years. And that finally got through um, to my mom. Oh, she's serious. And things, changed from that point. But yeah, it runs rampant, in, like I said, in our family with the moms. And we've she and I have come to a much better, very healed place. We were laughing hysterically this morning about me coming on and doing this show, considering our relationship now, but we were, it's done. I had a funeral in my mind for the relationship with my mom. So it just,
And a lot of the people I have worked with have actually had to come to that, where they've
absolutely,
had to do no contact whatsoever. And
absolutely.
it's terrible, painful it's for both the mother and the daughter. It's a terrible thing, as you know.
Absolutely. It's like once you live through these things, another member of our family, well, and my mom too, they never repaired their relationship with their mom, my grandmother, um, because it was irreparable. There was no way that my grandmother would have ever, ever, ever allowed for any admission of the mistakes that she made. She was
Yeah.
infallible and the martyr, martyr, martyr. So that was sadly, but it's interesting to work with my mom now and hear her say something. And she was about the age that my grandmother was when I was very, very young. And so I remember things from that. And then I'd say, that's something that you just could not forgive grandma about. Do you remember that? And you're going through that. Can you look with any compassion, at her now? And we just sort of chip away, and I do it in a non-shameful way, just because it kind of frees her from the guilt and shame that she still carries about the fact that they were not able to repair, and yet we were.
And I'd come across that quite a lot, this generational thing, how it's handed down. Some of it is, of course, genetic. Some of it is just mimicking the same behaviors over and over. Um, but in spirituality, they would recognize this and they would say that probably within about 7 generations, somebody will be asked to break the cycle. And
Mm,
then maybe you were that seventh generation. And maybe you were the one who had to go and do the no contact, to make the distance, to gather yourself. And then you were at a time when you were learning about narcissism. The chances are the women down the lines had no idea what they were dealing with. They probably just thought that they were strong, dominating women, a line of strong, dominating women. And they might have even taken pride in that. And there would be areas to take pride in that too. But there's a very big difference between being a strong, successful woman and being a dominating woman.
being an emotional and psychological bully is very different from
Yeah.
being an empowered,
Yes.
strong
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and I think in some, I like to look at kind of what the shades of narcissism are across different families, and sometimes it's born of so much trauma, just so much trauma, and things like substance abuse and illness, chronic illness, and just so much trauma, right? And so out of that springs people's worst behavior sometimes, and then they get deeply rooted in that behavior, and then it creates this cycle through generations, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be born from trauma. It cannot. I looked at it like, there were times with my mom where everything was pretty darn good, and then there'd be a breakup or a change, and that sent her into all her fear from childhood. And then that brought in her worst behavior that was learned behavior. And so we would have a period of awful. And then there would be this period of okay again. And then I know the difference because I've been around mothers who are just relentless. It's never ending. That there are no periods of saneness. There's only periods of everyone acquiesces to the queen,
Mhm.
and and it's just that behavior is there all the time. So when you're working with the family, what are you doing to figure out which type it is and where to go with that within a family?
Well, generally the client carries the answers within them. I'd be looking for certain patterns because in that particular case I spoke about, that was about a mother not allowing her daughter to have an identity, that she was an extension of herself in every way, meaning well. I'm sure the mother meant well, but the impact it had was awful on the daughter. But not all mothers are coming from that place. I mean, they can come from other places as well. Like sometimes a mother there'll be a mix of envy and idealization going on with their daughter. Um, and that's different again, because what they will do is they will tell their daughters how lovely they are, how beautiful they are. Um, but at the same time, they'll envy it because what it reminds them, what their daughter is reminding them, is of their own youth when they were that age, whatever that age is. A 15-year-old, they're so innocent and they're so beautiful and they don't know how beautiful they are. And then the mother seeing that beauty, but the mother also resenting it. And this can lead to terrible competition between the mother and the daughter. Now, I'm not hearing that from the little you just said about your mum there, I didn't hear that. It wasn't competition.
No.
But when it's competition, I remember this was somebody I knew when I was younger. I wasn't a therapist at the time at all. And she had a boyfriend, and actually she was getting engaged to the boyfriend. And the mother, she was beautiful. She looked like Sophie Loren. She was gorgeous. And the mother always talked about her daughter's beautiful looks and would say to her, she's my Sophie Loren. That's a film. For those who don't know who Sophie Loren is, she was a film star way back, beautiful. Anyway, she took kindly to the boyfriend, but she got into being very flirtatious with him. So the competition is now on. So she would sometimes tell her daughter to dress down. Oh, that's too sexy, dress down. But then she'd put on a little top that was revealing when the boyfriend was coming over. But anyway, in the end, she got the boyfriend. The mother actually married the boyfriend and had another child with him. Now that's extreme. That's an extreme case. Now I wasn't a therapist then. That was someone I knew. And I only put the pieces together later around that one. But they will often compete in all sorts of ways. But they will now, that kind of a mother will want to hang out with her daughter. She'll want to meet her, be one of the gang, wants to go to the nightclub with them all and dance and, flirt and all of that. But all the time they want to be the center of attention, and the daughter has to step back in their presence. And that's a terrible situation to be in.
Yeah, I witnessed that a lot with friends. A lot with friends. I think when I'm thinking about it with our family, our family competed for who had the worst trauma. It was like if somebody's really going through something, um, it's almost like that's when the vultures came out. Oh, it's bone picking time. It was like that's so there was a competition of who had it worse. That's the person who gets to complain the most, and no one could outdo my grandmother in that respect.
Okay.
So, so anyway,
Yeah.
the competition thing, I bring that up because it is a theme. It is a theme. It's sometimes it's what you're talking about, and
Mm.
some that it's just that the competition piece is a theme. It doesn't always manifest though as obvious things like mom chasing after daughter's boyfriend. Sometimes it's just so covert and it's,
Mm.
something else.
Yeah. Like the mother who wants to be loved by all of your daughter's friends as being the most cool mother ever. As well, that's not giving the daughter room to shine. But what you're talking about is interesting because I would wonder if what you're talking about has to do with lack of empathy.
Mm.
So, and that can be very present. And what that can do, the impact that that can have is it parentifies the child, that the child actually takes on the role of mum to mum. So, for instance, like, um, I don't know, for instance, if let's say the father dies in the family and the mother will not think my daughter is grieving for her daddy. I'm grieving for my husband. They're not thinking that the child is grieving for her father. And they want to be taken care of. They want to be minded. They want a caretaker. It'll be more than likely be if it's an adult daughter, she'll be doing all of the whatever has to be done to organize the funeral, to notify people, to do, doing all of the running that has to be done at a time like that. But there'll be no empathy shown to her for her grief at all. So in a way, that that won't be the first time it's happened. That will have been happening in that person's life all along. So that daughter will automatically fit into the role of caretaking, making sure everybody's okay, making sure everybody knows the arrangements. Um, their feelings will be completely swallowed. It'll be all about everybody else. And that's a typical one of especially females. The daughters are often caretakers, and of course you'll take that into your relationship as you get older.
Yep, everything you're speaking sounds so familiar.
Yeah, and see that is the thing. It's not that you get one of these. These things can all overlap. You could end up having all of these in the mother-daughter relationship.
Yeah, I think with some in our family tree that were able to repair their relationships. I think there's only a couple, mine being one of them. The differences in those two, well, the differences in those two is that religion, a religious piece played a big part of the other one that made it harder for that one to repair than mine with my mom. But what I think is interesting is, when you get to this place like we have where we can joke about it, like I said to her, you finally got everything you ever wanted. You have your daughter 100% devoted to you 24 hours a day because I'm in a caretaker role. And she just
Uh-huh.
turned her head and looked at me and smirked and laughed. And we
Mhm.
just laughed.
Mhm.
And then I said, and I get everything I want. I've got my mother's full attention. So we are
Mhm.
healing our mother-daughter wounds as we do this role together. And for me, that's a way of making peace with it. Um, but we could do that because we were both willing to do the work. that's the big difference. And the other
I
relationship,
think there were a couple of things in there really, because you've been doing this work over 10 years.
yeah.
It shows the amount of healing that you have done, that you've come to this place. And no disrespect to mom, but had you not had done your work, probably this work would never have surfaced between you. Because she probably didn't know either, any more than her mother before her and her mother's mother before her. This was modeled to them. This is what they thought. This is what they also, apart from the personality part, this is what they thought mothers do. It's what they'd known before. But somewhere along the line, it happens to be you, has stopped, has looked at your own trauma, has taken it out, has examined it, has looked at, you must have at some point, because you and I have never done therapy together.
Nope.
But I mean, I'm assuming you have at some point looked at your own boundaries.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Having none to now ninja boundaries. That's what I call them now. Like, oh no, no, I have them. I still get
Yeah.
uncomfortable. Like it gives me a bit of a stomach when I say no. I just had to say no to someone, a job offer that would not make me happy. And I said no, and I did it right away, and I was very kind. And it will be fine, but I still get a bit of a stomach ache when I say
Yeah.
no. But I do
Yeah,
it.
well, that's the caretaker in you, the little voice, the caretaker in you. Oh, I wonder, will they be okay?
Yeah.
Might also want to be staying safe in it as well. Like, oh, I hope they don't dislike me for this. Or, but it's probably more going to be, oh gosh, they need a little bit of help. I should,
And I'm putting and
will
I'm
they be
I'm not
okay?
helping them. Yeah, that's it. That's the one.
Yeah,
So
that's the
anyway,
one.
it's
Yeah,
just yeah,
yeah,
learning those boundaries.
yeah.
Yeah, they take work and somebody has to step in and do the work. And for whatever reason, I got to be that person. There is nothing special about me.
Well,
In that.
now wait a moment. It might
No, because
well
I don't want
be.
this to turn into, oh, Kristen,
No,
you're
no,
all
no,
good.
no, no. But other people will be finding themselves in the same position, and it may well be that yes, maybe you were chosen from the point of spirituality, because spirituality is much, much bigger than religion. A lot of people think that spirituality is only to do with religion. It's much more than that.
Oh, it's
It's to
so
do,
much
it's
more.
it's
Yeah.
so much bigger than that. It's to do with dreams, potential, purpose, mission. So maybe your mission in life is to heal this family wounding, that it ends here. It ends now on your line. It ends. You're talking about it. Um, it's not spoken about in most families because most families don't know what they're dealing with. And if they do know what they're dealing with and they try to bring it up, they have not done enough work on themselves to be able to hold the space when they're attacked. And they will be attacked.
And the great spiritual piece of this that you and I have talked about so many times and emailed about so many times is that the gift of it, the one relationship that sent me to find Andrea Schneider and then you and that just cracked me open um, is the gift in that horrible experience was that was a huge part of this generation of mothers and daughters not staying apart, of
Yeah.
being able to both sides do the healing work.
Mm.
And the reason why is because I knew what I was dealing with. None of the
Yeah.
generations before, as you said, had a language for what the heck is this, right? They,
Mm.
even though that word was out there, even in my grandmother's time, it was not
Yeah.
out there like it
No.
was, it wasn't for my mom, but
Mm.
I was able to have a language. I was around at the time when that language started to come out because people like you had brought it to the forefront. So I was able to find it and having that roadmap, then you can trace your steps to whatever healing is going to help you. If that healing is no contact forever, and that is what you need to do, that's what you need to do. Or if it's, hey, maybe we can both do something. But you're right, that wouldn't have happened without one of us knowing
Yes.
what the heck we're dealing with.
Yeah. And that took a lot of work and a lot of working out, and which you did. And if you hadn't have done that, but you still wanted a relationship with mom, which is natural and normal, you might have gone to her. You might have said, now, mom, something I need to say to you. You might have shamed her. And then she would have got into the defensive mood.
Oh yeah,
And
we've done plenty of that. Yeah.
yeah, and so you'd have danced around again and again and again.
Yeah.
But because you have done the work on yourself, you are able to go with less emotion behind it. You're able to go, you're able to be mindful of her feelings, which is always a good thing anyway. Um, you were able to put it across in some way that she was able to accept. And fair play to mom as well, that she was able to enter into that dialogue at some level with you, that you have come to this place together. And it's a win-win. And that's one thing, my work, I'm always out for a win-win if I can possibly get it. That's what I want. I'm not trying to turn anyone against the narcissistic individual that they've brought into the room, whether it's a parent, whether it's a friend, a boss, whoever. I'm not trying to turn them against them. If there's a place to get a win-win, that works for everybody. But you won't always get that win-win. But it's very important that the person who has done the work is ready that they may not get that win-win and that they may have to walk away, but that they walk away with dignity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Christine, can you share with everyone where they can find your amazing books and the only place that they can purchase your books for
Yes.
download?
Okay. My books are ebooks. They're only available on my website, which is narcissisticbehavior.net. And you can download them immediately. There's 4 books I've written at the moment. I have a 5th one coming, but there's 4 at the moment there. Is that
Fantastic.
enough?
That's enough. And you know, I'll do a funny at the end for everyone. Here's our behind the scenes footage that we'll keep up. So, 2 things. One of them is I noticed that I didn't notice this. I am neurodivergent. I'm in the neurodivergent community, and I'm learning how to not mask. And so I'm looking at myself on camera, which I took years off of doing that after being on camera for a while. And then I just went, nah, for several years. When I realized I'm not controlling myself as much as I used to. So I use my hands all the time. I'm like, I hope I'm not like bothering people that I'm constantly
I
doing.
hadn't even noticed. I was so just engrossed in what we were speaking about. I didn't even notice
Okay.
that was happening. I didn't see it.
It just made me laugh. And then the other thing is that we joked about with your family as well, is that somehow I turned a setting on in my Zoom that made me have Joan Crawford eyebrows. And so through some of the videos, I have these crazy eyebrows. That was not done on purpose, but I don't care. I saw that and I went, oh, that is hilarious. Whatever.
Well, again, I didn't even notice the eyebrows either. But
Good.
we had a giggle. I had a giggle with my son about that as well. Yes.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we get into it. We get into it with emails back and forth, and then also on these discussions, we just go right in for the deep dive. So I love that. I love that we do that, and that's what people want to see and appreciate seeing. So thank you,
Yeah.
Christine. We will be doing more shows. Viewers and listeners, thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next episode.
Bye, everybody.
But will you ride the low, low, lows with me? Will you ride the low, low, lows with me?
One thing you can always count on at Mental Health News Radio Network and my show is that there will always be dogs around. Why? They are natural healers, excellent for your mental health. The original therapy dog Miles has something to say in just a moment. For now, please check out all of our amazing shows at mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com and all your favorite podcast apps. Until next time, I'm Kristen Sananta Walker, and thank you for listening.
Me tonight, and I can ride the low, low, lows with me. I can ride the